Good Monday morning and welcome to the somewhat daily backup for Monday the 2nd of November, he says with confidence.
It is the 2nd.
Nailed it. Yes. My name is Gus, the sex magician Ronald, and with me, the lovely Stephanie Lady Laphund Bendixson. How are you, Steph?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
This is your move?
I was being a Laphund.
Love it.
I have one right here. Hang on, wait.
Yeah, bring it. instant dog distraction. Love it. That's a far more convincing impersonation of a Laphund because it's a genuine one. Hello, Scardy. Yeah. How are you this morning?
She's very interested in my eggs that I just had.
Wait, did you just take the full screen?
I mean, she deserves it.
That's total bias from the button-pushing Peter in the background, but thank you very much. Lovely to see Scardy. Lovely to see you as well, Stephanie. How are you? How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. I played more Baldur's Gate last night, and I'm still really enjoying it. They've just been, every few days they release more, Larian Studios releases more hotfixes and more patches to deal with bugs. Right. So every time I'm like, I don't know, it's getting kind of frustrating. Like, maybe I'll just wait till full release. They're like, hey, we just fixed a whole bunch more stuff. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm back in.
I feel like you're going through a breakup where the other person keeps saying they're changing, but are they really changing? Like, maybe it's time you just put that to bed and...
No. It's like dating a Victoria's Secret model and she keeps doing the stuff that's a bit annoying. And you're like, look, I don't know if you're really worth it. And then, she fixes the small problems that she has, and then you're like, well,
I'm still dating Victoria's Secret. Yeah. Fair enough.
The game is amazing. The game is amazing.
Thank you for making a comparison that I can just totally relate to. That was very helpful.
That was just for you.
Exactly.
That was just for you guys.
Very, very helpful. Lovely to see everyone in the chat as well. I see a lot of familiar faces. I see a lot of people. Someone said good evening in the chat, which is a lovely sign that we're getting people who aren't in Australia, which would be a nice sign. Or someone who's just really has their internal clock messed up as well. So who knows? Someone
that's just being wacky.
Yeah. Oh, that could be it. They could be a night shifter who just woke up or who's just going to bed. So either way, welcome to you all. This is the Somewhat Daily Backup where we do the news that broke over the weekend and the gaming news that follows. But before we dive into news, as usual, enough of this sparkling repartee and back and forth. We should do a couple of shout outs to, first of all, I'm going to let you do this one, Steph, because I'll be honest, you buggered it up so much last time. I reckon I'm going to give you a saving pass on this one.
I just didn't understand the concept, but I feel like I'm across it now. So I'm going to shout out to today's Pocketeer patron, Pextraordinaire.
Ta-da!
Which is the full title. And that Pocketeer is Gabe Churchill.
Hey!
So hi Gabe, wherever you are, whether you're still in bed, whether you're at work, whether you're watching right now. Hello, you are our Pocketeer patron Pextraordinaire, which is totally something that I can say.
What a title. Marrying the best parts of the best part of Gabe, all I think of with Gabe is Gabe Newell. I can't think of any other Gabe. And Churchill, all I can think of is Winston Churchill, so I don't know any other version of that. So you've got some, political sort of lineage mixed with some like high-end gaming royalty as well. So best of both worlds there. Well done, Gabe.
I have a cousin called Gabe who's quite young, and so every now and again I get Instagram DMs from him telling him, asking if I can prove to his friends that I used to be on Good Game Spawn Point.
So it's proof that I used to be something.
Yeah, and that we're related.
Just occasionally the photo of holding up a newspaper, hey Gabe, or something like that.
It's me.
It's still around. We are still around, and we are still making a couple of shows. We do one on Thursday, which is Wednesday this week. That's a little bit of housekeeping I was trying to backpedal on there. We will be doing our nightly show on Wednesday this week, so tune in to watch that with all sorts of shenanigans and even more of this back and forth. You think this is good? Wait till you see Wednesday night show. Exactly.
Doing it on Wednesday this week.
Good thoughts.
Good. I'm just going to put that in my diary.
That was mainly a reminder for you, Steph, more than the audience, but I'm glad we got there as well. But we should dive into the news
now.
And the other person to thank before we get into the news is, of course, we couldn't have the news without the extraordinaire that is Tim, the hero Pocketeer. Get your exclamation mark Tim's out in the chat. It is Tim from the Learn Programming Academy. Tim, of course, teaches has taught close to 1 million students with his coding courses. You can see down there's the link, back pocket, and you can go and find out all the information you need if you're keen to be a keen coder out there. Tim supports the show, and you can support him by taking up one of his courses, learning how to code. How's my current coding journey going, Steph? Still hasn't happened. Still hasn't happened. It's not that it's not gone well, just hasn't happened.
Total failure, I would say. So
sure, if you think anything that you haven't started yet as a possible project, you're a failure at it until you start. So that's a really optimistic way to look at it.
I feel like that's accurate.
So thank you so much to Tim for supporting the show. You can, of course, support the show too by heading to Patreon and becoming a patron. And that way you get all this juicy content and you help us make it and you help us make the news. Speaking of the news, Stephanie, do you want to kick us off with our first story?
Yes. This is an interesting one. There was a Hollywood Reporter article over the weekend talking about a new gaming comedy, one up for BuzzFeed Studios, is being made.
Film or a series?
I don't know actually.
Because my understanding was it was going to be a movie, but it could be a series.
I think it's a film. But yeah, BuzzFeed Studios, which is already I don't know how to feel about.
I was going to say we can get to that, but let's just plow on with the actual what the content is, and then we can talk about the fact that there's a BuzzFeed Studios. Yeah,
but you know what? It could be like, I don't know. It could be like Amazon. It could be like Ubisoft getting into stuff. It's called One Up, and it's described as being in the vein of Pitch Perfect, but set in the world of esports with a Gamergate backdrop.
Wow.
So let's unpack that. Because I feel like, for one thing, I understand that it's unlikely that you would make a piece of media around video games and not make it a comedy, because no one really takes video games seriously outside of us. So I think that's fine. Pitch Perfect, I hope that's a very loose link in that, I don't know, Pitch Perfect for one thing is a musical, so.
I mean, maybe their idea is it's female focused and it's team based, or it's pulling together a ragtag team that are underdogs. Like I would think that's the assimilation there.
That's the comparison, but it's a weird comparison to make when you think about a cappella singing. And then set in the world of esports, I mean, that's pretty cool. It's cool to be able to put esports on the map in terms of, a lot of people don't even realize that competitive gaming is as big as it is, and is seeking legitimacy as a sport. The Gamergate backdrop stuff, obviously, it's an easy way to frame this story, being that it's about women. It's just that it's almost like it's too soon, and they're going to be making fun of it, and also I feel like they're not going to research the issue well enough to do it justice, and then it's going to kind of belittle everything that happened not so long ago. Yeah,
it's tricky, isn't it? Especially framing it as a backdrop. So it's like, oh, this is maybe the jumping off point for why, I believe, reading on the article, it says the story centers on a female gamer who quits a college esports team rather than put up with the sexism from her male counterparts. I mean, that is an understandable, very, I think, relatable kind of scenario to be in, and that is something that does exist. So that's a reason to start this story. And then it basically says she has to assemble a varsity caliber all-women's team that can compete with the boys, and with the help of an enigmatic coach who returns to the spotlight after her own Gamergate scandal. So they're saying that the coach, who I believe is going to be played by Ellen Page, at this stage. She will have come from, they are addressing it as a Gamergate style scandal, and whether or not that's her backstory. And whereas they're saying the new character is just leaving because of the sexism and that sort of stuff, which is, intrinsically attached to the Gamergate style of the Gamergate controversy. But it does seem like it could belittle it, or could very easily belittle it, if it's just using it as a plot device to make these characters feel like they're underdogs who are, fighting against the system, where it's something was a very serious issue and still is, and needs to be addressed that way, I think.
For sure. And I don't know what Ellen Page knows of Gamergate, or if she's a gamer herself or anything like that. Satire is one of the best forms of social commentary to reach an audience. So I don't have an issue with the fact that it's a comedy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Zoe Quinn on Twitter, for example, she has said that no one has contacted her when any production company has made any sort of form of media about Gamergate or touching on Gamergate. No one has ever contacted her. No one's ever contacted Anita Sarkeesian, as far as I'm aware, to get a deeper understanding of the issue from the people who were directly involved with it at the start. So I feel like that in itself is a huge red flag to me, that somebody's going to we're going to make this whole movie and we're going to center it around this issue and we're going to make it funny, but we're not going to involve anyone who was directly involved with it or even kind of get a sense of what their experience was.
Again, for me, the red flag is the Gamergate backdrop. So it's like they're using it, or it'll be a shame if it's used as just a plot device, as a way of pushing forward a narrative that doesn't address the issue and doesn't show the real problem that what it was. Obviously, I'm assuming everyone knows, but Zoe Quinn, obviously one of the main players in the beginning of the whole Gamergate hashtag, being the game developer who had the bad breakup with a boyfriend who then wrote the terrible things that led to the whole thing sparking. And yeah, obviously a touchstone as someone who has been in it from the very beginning, and to see that she has made this statement that basically everyone comes to her at the end of the development process when they haven't used her as any form of research, just purely to say, oh, you're attached to this, could you promote it, is really quite sad.
Totally, especially if they're setting one of their main characters having had gone through some sort of Gamergate-esque scandal. I would really want that to be grounded in the sort of reality of what happened if they're going to be basing it around that.
Yeah, and I really hope we don't see that thing where they kind of I want to backpedal a little bit and just say, I have cringe. I'm prepared for cringe for this based on the idea of, anytime you see a piece of fiction, which is like a film or like a TV show that addresses video games, I think it's very difficult to do that thing where it's do you want to show real video games? Do you want to show real esports teams? Is that what they're going to do with this series? Very similar to the Apple TV series that I know you watched that Ubisoft helped develop. It was called something...
Mythic Quest,
which really... walk that fine line between a real game studio but making a fake product. Similarly, I hope that this doesn't turn into a thing with fake esports tournaments, all playing Shoot a Strike, and they're all playing fictional games because as a gaming audience, we find that very cringe. And similarly, I hope they don't do the same thing with the Gamergate and give it a different name, but we know what they're referring to, and therefore undercut some of the actual importance that this thing was. So again, being a comedy, I think you're right. I think seeing satire could be a great way to address this and not just dwell in the doldrums of how terrible a lot of it was, and to try and sort of, reach a new level with it. But it's it's risky.
I wonder if Ellen Page is producing on it, because that would be amazing.
She's been in the gaming sphere as someone who's worked in and on them. I'm not sure how much. I would hope that she would bring that to it as well. But
I don't see anything about her producing.
She doesn't work for Team BuzzFeed Studios.
That would give me a little bit more hope, if a woman who is kind of involved in it would have a direct hand in the thing getting made. But I don't see anything about it, and it feels like they would probably leave with that if that was the case.
Totally. And but I'd take some solace in the idea that she is a very fiercely independent, and she's very outspoken on feminine issues and sexuality and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think they'd be bringing her in to make her some kind of cardboard cutout character that is very two-dimensional kind of thing. So hopefully that is a good sign that it's going to have some depth to it as well.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see.
And again, BuzzFeed Studios, it sounds like at the end of the film, do you do a quiz? Is there something, I don't know.
Top 10 best movies that feature video games.
And they'll put themselves at number one. Oh, I see how it's all going to work. Very, very tricky. Well, moving on. And speaking of things falling from the top of lists, I would say a game that didn't do great in terms of its charting was Anthem. Anthem, of course, released, start of last year, I want to say.
About a year ago.
About a year ago now.
Over a year ago, yeah.
Anthem is getting a re-release of sorts with Anthem 2.0. And basically, the developers are trying to address a lot of the issues that came out, that came alongside the game, and some big changes that people are sort of starting to mention. Could this be a No Man's Sky style revelation where the game comes back like a phoenix from the ashes? Steph, did you play a lot of Anthem when it was released?
I did. I was actually really excited about Anthem because I loved Titanfall so much, and this kind of looked like a Titanfall-esque multiplayer open world game. So I was heaps excited for it. And I even when you keep playing something, even though it deep down you know it's bad, but you're like, no, it's good. And I spent money on it, so it's good. So you keep going back to it. That was kind of where I was in for a couple of weeks when I was playing Anthem.
Yeah.
But it was pretty bland, and it was just, it just had a lot of flaws that acted as roadblocks to making it fun in terms of the way the skill tree worked and that kind of stuff. And I think also just the story was just not enough to kind of hook you into it.
Gosh, that story really took a backseat right out of the gate, didn't it? It was like they set up some world building and then you just moved into this kind of area where there was just a lot of dialogue and not a lot of actual, characters and anything you really cared about, from my memory at least.
But BioWare have really doubled down on it, as BioWare often does, and they've tried to sort of spend the last year and a bit working on answering the specific issues that, people who genuinely wanted to love the game, or I guess we could say fans of the game, had to try and give it, I guess, a second wind or a new life. It's not impossible. We have seen it, as you mentioned, with No Man's Sky. Some games have come back from the dead and been like, look, we know we didn't have the best launch, but we've actually been developing this further into a product we think you really will love, and a game world that you want to spend time in. So just give us a chance.
And I think what we're seeing here is a YouTuber who's gone through and has looked at a lot of the comments that have come from the director and developers. And it seems like a big part of what they're looking to change is that they're reworking the loot system. A huge part of a game like this, a grindy kind of game, is the loot, and I think a lot of the issues that were found straight out of the gate was that there just wasn't enough loot, and by the time you really got any rare items or any of the weapons you were hunting down that you really, really wanted, it was kind of like they were totally redundant by that stage that you powered up enough. And so it felt like it wasn't a satisfying loop of that kind of loot and shoot, which is crucial to any of these kind of games. Obviously, you're playing a lot of Destiny 2 now, but I know you like your looters, and it's got to be scratching a certain particular itch. And I think for a lot of people, it just wasn't the priority of the game, which therefore made it not as fun as it should have been.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it another go. I want to, if they've put this much work into changing it, and I own the thing, so
yeah,
I'll definitely jump back in and see if it feels legitimately different enough to kind of to pull people back from the edge. Changes they've made have been, I guess, changes to the outline, choice, and builds, which are kind of made up of javelin specializations. Javelins are the sort of suit things that you get into, specializations and abilities and equipment. So, for example, Anthem will offer players 11 equipment slots for players to customize. There's going to be new artifact equipment slots, and BioWare has said that unlike components, artifacts will lead to a meaningful change in the player's javelin. So I feel like people just felt a little bit hamstrung by the customization options they had for the javelin, and they've tried to really address that and give you lots of different ways to play.
Yeah, which is interesting because my understanding was that you played in a javelin. You picked one from the start. I remember doing a video about it a year ago, that you had to pick one from the outset, and then the option to change that javelin itself, which therefore had different weapons, powers, loadouts, that sort of stuff, occurred much further down the track. So whether or not that was a reason that people found themselves getting very over the builds and not enough flexibility and variety to that play style for so long until you got a chance to really change it up, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think for the concept of the javelin to work for people, is it needs to be something that they can really customize to make it feel like something that is unique from the person next to you, and that you can change it up depending on the area that you're fighting in, maybe. And it needs to be different enough that it feels like something unique. And I think the javelin, as it stood when you first loaded up the game, was nothing more than a glorified flying suit.
I reckon maybe that with the class systems of having like the heavies, the warlocks, the striker, I can't remember all the names, and the generic one, maybe they shouldn't have done that. Forget the classes and just be like, build your own suit from the beginning. Like, you want a big chunky one that can't fly very far, build that in your own way.
Difficult to balance, though, I think, when they make it a free-for-all for people.
Stephanie, this is why I do not develop said games. I purely critique them and come up with terrible ideas in hindsight. and then just think I could have made a better game, which is I think the majority of us. But it's
right.
It's good to see that this game is still alive to some degree, and that hopefully there's still a decent sized player base out there that are enjoying it. And I will jump back in and do my best Iron Man impression, but. Maybe I will just do it to listen to that opening theme song, which I put a link in, but I don't think Peter wants to play. But it's like that awesome. Oh, he's going to do it. Yes. The music in this was so good. And I'm just like, if we're hearing it now, while that's happening, I'm going to turn that up. And I'm also just going to shut my window because someone is mowing a lawn like crazy out the window. So I'll be back in 5 seconds.
This is lovely.
It was a whippersnipper. How good was this music?
This is amazing.
This is like the main menu. It was like that sort of choral, but it was like modified
it's
with like
choral, but it almost has kind of like African sort of harmonic qualities to it.
It's cool. I watched the live performance of it when they were announcing it, and it was so sad because they had like a full orchestra and like a woman on like some synthesizer keyboard doing like the singing as she was modifying it. But it also reminded me, like, remember when people were excited for this game and they were like, it's gonna be so good, and there were like amazing BioWare trailers and stuff, and it was like, oh, it's so sad to see a game before it became crushed by the internet.
I know, and I just buy into all hype as well.
Oh,
you know this about me. I just like I see a flashy trailer and a hype reel, and I'm in. You know, I'm like, this is gonna be the best game ever made. a
live pan flute player talking about what was the game you were really into? The Japanese one. You've been playing it all year. I've forgotten it. The windy one. Sekiro.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Thank you. Oh my god, yes. When they just had that guy up on the stage doing his single like giant wooden flute with a funny hat, and it was like, I'm excited for this game purely just from live musicians playing it. It was like, oh, it was so exciting.
Hype paid off for that one though, didn't it? That was a great game.
It very much did. Moving on from a game that's being re-released to some games that you won't be able to play anymore. Sadly. Well, I say sadly, but this is that Ubisoft have, technically the headline says it has doubled the number of PS4 games that you can't now play on the PS5. First of all, I want to say, did you see when the PS5 originally came out and said, here are the games that we won't be supporting backwards compatible wise?
Yeah.
But because it wasn't a big list and they were really obscure old games. And it was like, oh, this is fine. I was worried it was going to be huge. I was worried there were going to be a heap of games that weren't going to be backwards compatible. And it was like some really obscure games that no one was playing anymore. However...
Yeah, I wonder if that was a strategic move where they're like, we'll just tell them that it's only going to be a few games, get them hyped about the console, and then later we'll just be like, actually, it's like twice that much.
It was a few more. Did you buy one? I'm so sorry, but look at its funny shape. This is Ubisoft now coming out and saying that there are a number of games that won't be backwards compatible, and the majority of them from the list are from the Assassin's Creed series, which got me worried, and I assume it would have got you a little worried too, Steph. But if you want to have a read through the list, I think it's not too bad.
I don't know. I don't replay a lot of old stuff, if I'm honest.
Sure.
Like, I think it's just because, being in this industry, working in this industry, there's always new stuff coming out. So I don't have a lot of time for older games.
Yeah.
With the exception of a few like big ones like The Witcher, which is fine.
Sure.
It's getting compatibility for everything because
totally. It will forever be on that plinth. Well, we're seeing out of the Assassin's Creed series, really only the big one is Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which is that was the one that took place in London town with the brother and sister, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's the main one that won't have backwards compatibility. The remaining one's Assassin's Creed Chronicle Trilogy Pack, which is India, China, and Russia, hence those 3 games, which were the side-scrolling ones, I believe. Were they like the kind of mobile-y ones, I think?
Yeah.
So I think they were like,
so,
they were spin-off side-scrolling ones that were apparently really good fun. They were kind of like more of a puzzler or a direct puzzler. They won't have backwards compatibility. And then, of course, the other ones are Risk, Star Trek Bridge Crew, Werewolves Within, and Space Junkies. So, again, not like the main AAA Ubisoft titles that they've released, which shouldn't be of too much concern. And again, this is only ones that won't be available to be played backwards compatible. But therefore, I assume the rest of Ubisoft's back catalogue will be? I'm going to go out on a limb and say, hopefully.
I think so. I mean, if they're deliberately highlighting the ones that you can't play, then it stands to reason that the rest of the games you'll be able to play.
Yeah.
At least games that were released on the PS4. I think, PS3 games or whatever you can write off.
Yep, and then Ubisoft have also said that the Xbox One versions of all these games will be 100% playable on the Xbox Series X. So it's a funny one that just seems like a handful of games didn't cross over into that PS5 realm, but they have moved into the next gen realm on the Xbox side of things.
I wonder what the decision process for that is and where that comes from. Is it just easier to make the port for the Series X, or is it just too expensive on Sony, or is Sony just like making it difficult? Like, I wonder how that all works.
Did Ubisoft have a big list and they gave it to Sony and Xbox? Like, which ones of these games do you want? And Xbox is like, yeah, all of them. And Sony's like, we're just going to save a little bit of money and we're going to cross off a few down the bottom. Again, I'm not a developer. I'm not a businessman, Steph. So I don't know how this works, and I'm purely speculating. But yeah, a bit of a strange one. But they've also said, the last bit of this article is Ubisoft have since removed the article telling TechRaptor that we've pulled the Ubisoft Connect article and forum post RE backwards compatibility for the time being, as these may be inaccurate involving the Ubisoft titles that would be playable on PS5. So again, into what you were saying before, the worry that this is something that might adjust after the console is released. I mean, there's no guarantee anywhere to say all games have to be backwards compatibility. That statement, I don't think, was made by Sony directly. So yeah, this is something that you'll just have to see if it's a bit of a pick and choose scenario.
What I'm hearing is that PlayStation fans should hang on to their PS4 for a little bit.
There you go. Which is tricky because it's a big draw card to like maybe trade in and get that little bit bit of money off from your new console. So it's a luxurious position to be in to keep your old ones, your old setups. I like then downgrading them to another room. I move my other consoles like to the PC room and I plug them in and use them for like, backup games and that kind of thing as well. I've still attached them to a certain degree. And plus I don't like going into game stores and being like, hey, here's this thing I've loved my whole life. And they're like, we'll give you $50 off for it. I'm like, oh, it's not even worth that scrap. But yeah, it's a tricky one.
I don't really get that. I'm always looking forward, man. Forward. I hang on to stuff and then I'm like, maybe I'll use this again one day. And then like cut to 6 years later, I've moved 3 times and I'm like, it's time for this to go.
And by that stage,
blow off the dust.
You're not getting $50 for that. They're going to laugh at you when you come in with that. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Yes, so kind of glum news, and there's a bit more of that following up if you want to kick off the next story.
Yes. CD Projekt Red, obviously with Cyberpunk being delayed a few times, has seen a bit of a drop in its stock prices, 25% in the last 2 months, as I guess people are feeling nervous about the game. They're like, what? I think there is a lot of uncertainty around the release and success of Cyberpunk because of the fact that it's been delayed so many times. Yeah. I personally don't have those reservations. I feel like everything I've seen from, the developers talking about the game, it's just because they want it to be perfect.
Yep.
And they will not stand for releasing anything less than. So I don't think there's any worry about the game not being good at this point, knowing the CDP as we do and the level of quality that they're committed to delivering. I don't think delays necessarily speak to the game being bad. It's just this has been a tough year for developers and everyone, obviously. It's put delays in places that we never imagined. And I think they really wanted to be able to release the game alongside the console release so that it became a big launch title. But, that they couldn't. Stock prices have fallen. They'll go back up. I think it's fine.
True. It is a funny thing because the stock prices really do just reflect the business side of the development and what they're going for here. And I think, stock price is falling because they're not coming out with the release of these consoles. That's like prime period for people to be out literally purchasing things, and they want to purchase things to go with it. So I think sales will be affected. And if you are, I know you're a big CD Projekt Red fan, but I imagine you're not a shareholder, Steph. But if you were, it would be one of those things that you'd be concerned that the return won't be as substantial, given that sales will probably be down a bit. But I'm with you. I don't think the sales are going to be down to the point of, bankrupting the company. If the game doesn't turn into an absolute flop, which I'm 99% certain it won't. I'm sure there will be some loss in sales. They're saying here that the 25%, which again is a quarter of your stock prices, it's about 2.5 billion pounds. Has been.
It's huge. That's a massive drop, and I can understand.
Oh, my mistake. Euro. I can't read. It's a funny little squiggle. Euro. So of course, euro's a bit less than the pound, but yes, still a lot of money.
Yeah, it's huge. It's a lot, but I feel like as soon as the game is released and it does well, then it'll soar back up again. Stocks are funny like that. They rise, they fall, they rise again.
Look at that. You just a share.
I pretty much know everything there is to know.
They go up. You buy, and sometimes you sell, and then you buy. Sometimes I've seen a lot of yelling.
And sometimes they go like this, and sometimes they go like this, but then they go like this again, and then sometimes they go like this.
Stephanie Bendixson, the true wolf of Wall Street. Yes, look at you go. So yeah, that will be interesting as well. And moving on from CD Projekt Red to Blizzard, because we're talking about World of Warcraft, which is having a expansion that's coming out soon. Did you know about this?
I had no idea. I am surprised that there are still people playing World of Warcraft at all.
I'm not surprised. Of course they are. They've hooked it to their veins. They will never give up playing that game. They love it.
It's so ugly. I'm sorry to WoW fans in the chat, but it's so gross and old and ugly and boring. Why are people still playing it? And why are they so excited for this lame expansion?
Well, yeah, the newest expansion is Shadowlands, and it is now the most pre-ordered expansion in World of Warcraft ever.
What?
So, I mean, look, it's probably got, I don't know what the numbers are for the player base itself, but it's been around for so long that you just think it would have a very large, constantly growing player base. People who are on from the beginning are still there. Anyone who's always thought, I'm curious to see what the hype's all about.
Is it still growing? Like, I would love to know what their uptake of new players is.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it?
Because my understanding of WoW is that the reason why they've managed to stay successful is that they haven't improved that much the visual fidelity of the game, so that people, in every part of the world who can't afford a good PC can still run this like shitty looking thing and have their like WoW experience. And that's kind of where they've really cornered their market.
Well, obviously,
it's like we're always just like next thing, next video card, best looking game, 1 million frames per second, and they're just like, nah, we just want to do our daily quests on the lowest possible res and pay as little as possible.
It's proof that a good gameplay loop is still fun regardless of the shiny graphics and all that sort of stuff. That said, obviously there was Classic that was released last year, WoW Classic, which I think, smoothed some of the rougher edges, so to speak. And speaking of that sort of engagement and how many people are playing, Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick, he said there's been an unprecedented engagement trend since World of Warcraft. Their subscriber base has doubled following the launch of Classic last year. So there you go. The amount of people playing the game has basically, I think they're saying they're doubled, because that smoother, more accessible version, the less rougher version, has drawn in a larger amount of players, maybe people who are new to it. I know I booted it up and tried it for a little bit. It wasn't my jam, but I think people who were always curious too, it was now...
When did you try it?
Would have been like last year. It was in beta, I think. It was the WoW...
like the vanilla WoW?
Yeah, it's vanilla WoW, but it was the it was Classic. It kind of looked a bit more like what we're seeing in the cutscene now. It's like the graphics had a minor overhaul and stuff like that. But yeah, so he's then saying that the pre-sales of the upcoming Shadowlands expansion are the highest we've seen at this stage ahead of any release. So look, yeah, it's still a much loved game. A lot of people are still playing it, and they're still supporting it. And I mean, it's World of Warcraft. It's not going away anytime soon.
That's wild. I find that incredible.
It was actually the expansion itself was delayed earlier in the year, but it will be released later this month, so November 23rd. And there's nothing to do this month, gaming wise. So maybe just get into the WoW, get on that WoW train, and see what you've been missing this whole time. Because all that downtime, come on, guys. Why not just lose yourself? COVID's over in Australia. Why not now plunge into your basement or your gaming den and just give up on the real world and play?
The funny
WoW.
thing is, I know people who will still be playing WoW this month,
right,
in spite of everything else that will be released.
I mean, the oldies are still goodies. That's all you can say. So that's everything WoW at the moment. Stephanie, webcams, streaming. You're a streamer. Talk to me about Elgato or Corsair.
Yeah, so Corsair have acquired EpoCam, which is basically a company that specializes in turning like iPhones into PC compatible webcams, which is amazing because the idea that you could just like have an extra camera set up to film your pet or another part of the house or you know, on the go.
Yep.
It looks like the way that it sort of interfaces is super user friendly. And I think it's great. It'll be awesome. I hope it works well. I hope they bring it out for Android. I was looking online as an Android user. It doesn't look like they have any direct plans to bring in Android, which kind of sucks. But
not at this stage, no.
Once they figure that out, then that would be amazing. I have an iPad.
That would
it
work.
work with an iPad?
I mean, if we want to know how user-friendly it is, we could just, Peter, if I can get my single. Or both are doubles. I don't think I have a single per se.
You have it set up now?
Yeah, look at that. I mean, I've got terrible upload speed, I think, at the moment. But there you go. That is basically, if I hold it up there, that's my phone.
And are you connected wirelessly or is it with a cord?
I actually had to chuck the cord in the bottom just because my tower doesn't actually have wireless, because who needs wireless in a PC tower these days? But which is a lot of people apparently. So I've only got a medium-sized cable. But yeah, it was really straightforward. It's just downloading the app and then connecting the driver straight onto the phone itself. And it's pretty straightforward. It was so straightforward, it made me think, sorry, this is a mess now. How do I get rid of this? There's a button I got to click to. No, that's the wrong one. There we go. Gone.
It's so user-friendly.
Yeah, no, that's my interface. It's not user-friendly. It was so user-friendly. It made me think like, haven't we got this already? Like, surely there's got to be heaps of third-party software that just allows you to use the camera on your phone as a webcam. But apparently not. And apparently this is the most accessible one. Therefore, hence why someone like Corsair has bought it up, and it'll fall under the Elgato umbrella. So all that Elgato capture software.
Stumpify says there are Android apps that do it already.
I was going to say, I don't think this is by any means like a brand new piece of tech, but it is now being purchased by someone who's probably going to package it and make it a little more accessible as part of the Elgato family. They're, obviously everything they do is geared towards streamers and making things more accessible. So if people don't have great webcams, I mean, also the cameras in phones are so bloody good that it's like, no wonder people want to be using that versus their shonky old grey bubble webcam that they've still got from like the 90s.
I had no idea. I had no idea that it was so easy. I can't believe there's like a million Android apps that I could have been using all this time.
There you go.
I could be filming Scotty right now.
I did have this set up, I will say. Now. I had this set up to show off Lando, who just decided to plop himself on my desk for like an hour before the news started. And now he was like, you know what? I'm going to go and sleep over there. And I'm like, I can't. Can I zoom?
Classic cat. Classic.
Not
Classic.
only is that's the wrong way, Gus. Come on. User-friendly. Lando. Wake up. He's just he's just on a bed. Hey.
Puss.
He's done. He's out.
Puss.
Again, that is there he is. That was such a terrible thing to do. Like smack my desk.
You did it to make him afraid, to make him look
I'm
at
a
you.
good pet owner. So yeah, more pet cams. I'm sure will be abounding. Many streamers setups now that they can use their phone as another webcam, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I expect to see Scotty with her own one next time we do this.
The problem is she moves around a lot, so I would have to be chasing her.
I mean, it's wireless. Just strap the phone to the dog. Just have dog cam.
That's true. We could do POV dog cam.
POV dog cam. Yeah. Would it just be leg humping? Would that mainly be all it is? Hump cam?
She does hump a lot, yes.
There you go.
She's a very excitable girl.
Well, that pretty much takes us to the end of the main stories. But like I've said before, if you were to, say, take a tree, if you were to fell a large tree and carve it into something useful, like into planks of wood that you were then going to build like a shelf or a cupboard.
Oh my God, where are you going with this?
You would have offcuts. You would have extra bits of wood. And you'd be like, oh, what do I do with these? But they're actually the most useful bits. You can always take little offcuts that you keep in your shed, keep in your cupboard. And you're like, I need to make, maybe a chopping board or something small using just those little bits of offcuts, the leftovers, if you will, the most useful bits. And that's why we are here to talk about what's left over from the news, the leftovers themselves.
Why?
What?
What was that?
It was an analogy to try and work out, like, last time I think I talked about leftover food in the Bain Marie, like reheating scraps. This was like, my main thing is that I have a cupboard actually full of wood scraps that I really love using for stuff when I've got little projects. I'm like, oh, I've got these little bits of wood. So I was like, that's what I'll use the analogy of. I'll say, like, what if you've got leftover bits of timber? And then I was like, where does timber come from? I'm like, a tree. And I was like, well, what if you cut down a tree and you had spare bits left over? I was like, that's probably further than most people go. Most people go to Bunnings and buy their bits of wood, don't they? They don't chop down trees. Is my mic being cut?
Stop.
Stephanie, leftovers. What do we got?
Let's talk about From Software, who tweeted about the Elden Ring and people went nuts, even though they didn't really say anything at all. That's just how excited people are about Elden Ring, which is developed by From Software, but also a world that has been created with them and George R.R. Martin.
R.R. Martin.
R.R. Martin. Very excited. It was announced at E3 2019, and we haven't really heard anything about it since. Mm-hmm. So they were just like, let's just give them a little tidbit. Let's just tell them that we're excited for all of the. We're grateful for all the support that people are giving us for the game, and that they're looking forward to it. Let's just tell them that we're grateful.
I love that it follows on from a. Well, it's a follow-up from that top tweet that we're seeing there. That was an update on Sekiro. And they're like, we've released an update for Sekiro. Thanks to all the players. We love this game. We hope you love it, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, we also greatly appreciate the news. It's like, don't forget, we're also making this. Or don't think we've forgotten, we're also making this other game, which everyone is very excited about because...
Lots of memes, lots of excitement, lots of hype.
But no information.
Talking about a hype train, people are just so invested. They're fully in. They know nothing about it, but they're like, it's going to be the best game ever. I
mean, personally, I'm looking forward to it because I'm looking forward to playing Demon Souls. I really love From Software's take on Western medieval fantasy. It's that great take on like dragons and knights and all that kind of classic tropes, that sort of stuff. George R.R. Martin doing the story. I'm excited by that. I know he does good work. All I think about is pirate when I say that. So I'd like to see some more information, but we don't have any, and that's why this goes into the cupboard with the rest of the wood scraps, Stephanie.
Yeah, and I think people get frustrated whenever they see George R.R. Martin working on anything except for the last book in the Game of Thrones.
He's very good at working on things that have a long time before they're going to be released yet. So maybe he's a bit of a curse being attached to this.
Look, I feel like finishing anything like that must just be the worst thing in the world. So I don't blame him for wanting to procrastinate a little bit, but I also feel for the fans that are just like, give us the ending we deserve.
True. At least writing a book, it's on your own terms. I think being part of a game being developed, you've got a studio, you've got a lot of people around you that, who will be pushing that thing forward. So hopefully we see that out, I think, well and truly before the last book in that series as well at this rate.
Yeah.
So it should be fun.
The other big story we had, the other leftover story we had was that Miles Morales is Into the Spider-Verse suit in the upcoming game is going to look like effectively the suit from Into the Spider-Verse. It's cell shaded. When you're fighting with it, it's going to have like bang, pow kind of noises coming. It's going to make you feel like you're in the movie in terms of its animation style and the way it looks on the screen, which is really freaking cool.
I love the look of this, I've got to say. Did you see the Into the Spider-Verse film?
I did.
Did you like the Into the Spider-Verse film?
Because I go to movies by myself all the time. And I think
Thanks for the invite.
And it needs to be, everyone had already seen it by that point. I didn't see it because it didn't look like the kind of thing that I'd be into. And then everyone was like, you have to see it whether you like Spider-Man or not. You have to see it whether you like animation or not.
Yeah.
It's just like an incredible film.
It really was fantastic.
Like, fine. And I loved it. It was amazing. And I get the hype. I understand what it was about. And I think this is such a cool addition, especially kind of tying in with all of the way the Spider-Verse kind of bends reality and mixes animation styles and stuff like that. It totally fits that this suit would have that visual look to it and make you really feel like it's drawing directly from the film. So I love it. I think it's a great idea.
The film did such a great job of showing that you can mix stories, mix universes, more so than like your Avengers even. It's like, you were literally, they were doing references to the original Spider-Man trilogy films as like in jokes, and it was just like once I think you'd really torn away that veneer. It's like you could do anything in this universe or Spider-Verse. And so for this to now be as part of the upcoming PS5 Spidey game, it doesn't feel as much like just a cached in downloadable extra feature that they're just throwing in there because people might have liked it. It's like, no, this could be part of that actual story. Like this could be this suit finds its way into that. I'm not sure if the actual story missions will be like that. I think it is purely a cosmetic thing, but just for the player's sake, I think it's really nice.
And they've adjusted the frame rate as well so that it looks like animation, which is really cool.
One of the coolest things, and it's really geeky and nerdy and animaty, but I really loved doing research about it and finding out about it, is that in the actual Spider-Verse film, the film is animated on certain frames. So sometimes to make it look a little more like hand-drawn and sort of like animation, things would move on certain frame numbers. So like every second frame, there'd be movement, which gives it a more juttery effect, which feels more like classic animation. But they went even further than that, and they did things where when, if you've seen, obviously for anyone who's seen the film, there's a point where Miles Morales has to kind of learn to be Spider-Man, and he has to get into the rhythm of swinging. And so Peter Parker, who's training him at that stage, is also swinging, and he's animated on the other downtime frame. So he's swinging out of sync with him, and it's something that a human eye would barely notice. But as Miles gets better at learning to swing, they would sync up the frames eventually, so they would be in perfect sync. And again, it's one of those beautiful little details that the animators really got to play around with that kind of they're forcing an animated hand-drawn look. And so I think for it to be part of a game now, especially when everything else in the game is like moving at a glossy 60 FPS, you're going to have this cool effect, just like it sticks out, but in a good way. So I wasn't really keen to play this as part of the PS5 exclusives. I loved the previous game, but this is a reason that I would actually definitely get involved with playing the new Spidey game, because it just looks so cool. Good.
Yeah.
I love animation. I love Spider-Man. I can't wait.
We're talking about the PS5's controller as well, and how that's going to how all that haptic feedback would be really cool in this game in particular. So I feel like that for me is what, as an experience on the PS5 specifically, I'm excited about.
It sounded so detailed that they're going to make it vibrate every second frame. So you're going to have frames where it's not vibrating. That's the level of immersion they're going to go with this. It shall be amazing. Well, I think our cupboard is empty of leftovers now. to really bury that analogy, Steph. So we're out of scraps. But I'm seeing that the document that we read off here at the same time is being adjusted as we talk right now. So I'm seeing that. Well,
because we have a bit of time left over. We finished maybe a few minutes early. So
we blasted through the news.
Suggested that we do a quick talkback topic.
Ooh, with the chat.
Yeah, with the chat.
I love it. I can't read that. Okay.
Well, Nick Spawn has suggested the talkback topic: what slight alteration would have made a mediocre game great?
Ooh, interesting. So, like, we're talking, again, slight alteration. It can't be an overhaul of anything massive. It just has to be one little thing that bugged you about a game that you thought was almost perfect. Do you have anything that comes to mind? And chat, this one goes out to you guys as well. What tiny or minor alteration would you have made to a mediocre game to make it great? Are we talking things like speeding up the loading times of the lifts in Mass Effect 1? Something like that?
Yeah, that would have been good. I'm trying to think about mediocre games that I've played.
Well, again, I guess I was thinking
recently
of things that annoyed me in games I loved. So therefore, if I took it out, it would make that game even better. But I guess of a mediocre game, I would have stopped Windbound crashing. How's that? The Switch game I played that would make me lose my saves and send me back, I would stop that. I feel like that's not as much a slight alteration as a full-on fix.
I don't think by any means Ghost of Tsushima is a mediocre game. I think it was an excellent game.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
But a lot of people were saying, because I was describing it as something that was very similar to The Witcher 3 and that it was open world, beautiful landscapes and the way you kind of quested in that world. And people were like, do you think you love this more than The Witcher 3? And I was like, well, no, because I think there's elements of it that are better, but there's, I think ultimately the quest structure in The Witcher 3 is so involved, and every quest is different and unique and takes you on a different journey. Whereas I feel like Ghost of Tsushima was a little bit more job listy, like, and all the quests were kind of similar. It was just like liberate this town, help this person, liberate that town, help this person. I feel like what would have kept me, because I still haven't finished Ghost of Tsushima, and I feel like what would have kept me plowing through till the end, like unable to put it down, is if they'd made their sort of quests just a bit more unique and involved with interesting stories to each of them. Because I felt like that's probably the one area that game could have been. It would have just taken it to that level that to me would have pushed it to like Game of the Year.
Were you doing missions that almost you were repeating, almost like in terms of objectives and stuff
kind
like
of.
that?
You can't. Pretty much. There were maybe like 5 different quests that you would cycle through based on the kind of quests you were doing. And because the overarching story is just liberate Japan from the Mongols, it was like there wasn't really any mystery to that. It was just like, I have this goal and I'm hopefully going to achieve it. Historically, I will achieve it.
Yeah, exactly. This will happen.
Yes, this will happen. So I wish there was a little bit more of that nuance to the questing that you would do to elevate that game a little bit more.
Definitely. A few good suggestions in the chat. T59, having a better tutorial in Rocket League. It's a big barrier to entry. So adding a tutorial for some games, I think that people would have been like, I would have played more of it. I saw a great one from Violet Wind. Make the worlds in Yooka-Laylee less empty. This is the first Yooka-Laylee, not the new side-scroller one, the 3D open world one, which I played for review, which I was super excited about. And they had some levels in it that was so empty. There's like a casino level where you're just this tiny little creature running in between objectives, and it's like they forgot to put things in the game. It was a real letdown, like 2/3 of the way through the game. So I totally agree with you on that one. Some other suggestions in there. A lot of people saying collectibles, too many collectibles in certain games, Assassin's Creed in particular. Nicrotech saying there are too many. Someone referencing things like the shanties in Black Flag, having to collect them was painful. Sunday Beach is saying, whereas, I mean, I think some people really love that idea. So I think it's a 50-50.
Another one I would suggest is that we had a great game that was released, an Australian developed game that was released this year called Moving Out, which was very much in the same vein as Overcooked.
Yep.
But it was released without any sort of online component. I think you can play, if you download Parsec and kind of play it that way, which is a bit fiddly. And for that kind of game, and obviously this year more than ever, having online built into the game itself would have just been amazing. And it was astounding to me that they hadn't included it. And I feel like that would have just made that game so much better. People would have been streaming it so much more, and it would have done super well, I think, if people had included.
Has that not been patched so far, or that still is the case, is it?
I'm pretty sure it's still Parsec that you have to use to be able to play.
Yeah, right. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's been a tricky year for couch multiplayer games. I think we played that, I've forgotten the name, but like that cute furry creature slapathon game that we played live on stream, but that one had online play. So again, like, it's not the same as sitting on the couch with your mates, but sometimes that's all, especially this year, is all people can do. So I think...
I cannot remember the last time I sat on the couch and played a game with someone.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, let's organize this. We've all done it on Back Pocket. We literally sit on the couch together and play games. But if it's a memory that you have with us, then that's fine. You don't have to remember that. Like that.
Oh yeah, a back pocket doesn't count though. I mean, like in my house. That's something that we have the luxury of being able to do every week for our job.
Very
true. I mean, like in my house at home, like the last time I've had people over to play games on the couch, I can't remember.
Oh, Frosty Phoenix saying, Gus, the friendship is over. But it was just blossoming, Steph. We were finally blossoming our friendship, and now it's dead. It's dead like the dead trees in my wood cupboard.
I was just about to say it's the offcuts of the wood.
Dear. Well, speaking of Back Pocket, as we said at the top of the show, we will be going live on Twitch this Wednesday instead of our usual Thursday time slot, 8 p.m. this Wednesday night. We've got a big event coming up this weekend, which we can finally talk about, I believe, because I've seen an official tweet go out about it. And Stephanie, you're part of it, so do you want to give us a bit of a spruik?
Has there been an official tweet?
I'll wait for the voice of God in my ear just to give us the green light. No voice. The voices I usually hear aren't. I did too. Maybe I've seen a tweet go out about it with a bit of a, and I think the social media thing I made was to go out on the 1st. So I'm 95% sure we can talk about it. In fact, I'm 100% sure. Maybe we can't talk about who's in it. So it's something that we're helping make.
Should I just read the tweet?
Yeah.
To be safe?
Let's put the tweet
up. So we're
up.
not saying anything that's not in the tweet.
Let's do that. If we can find the way to put the tweet up as well, not find a way, I know we can do that. And then you want to read that out, go for it.
Join us for the Voyage to Valhalla, an Assassin's Creed game show presented by Xbox ANZ for an evening of Assassin's Creed trivia, Viking shenanigans, and the ultimate quest for glory. Tune in 7 p.m. AEDT on November 8th at twitch.tv/Ubisoft ANZ.
There you go. And you love shenanigans, don't you, Steph?
Yeah, I love shenanigans.
You're a big fan.
I think you'll find the old Loki studio will have had a bit of a makeover.
I don't think you'll even recognize it at the rate we're going. And the reason we can say that is because that was tweeted at, I think, Nick, Peter, and I as part of Loki. So that's how we've been roped into that. We are by no means, I think, breaking any NDAs or anything there. But yes, that is happening this weekend. So we're just giving ourselves a bit more time. Hence, we're doing the show on Wednesday. So looking forward to seeing all your lovely faces and names in the chat.
Well, it's tune in on November. Oh, wait, November 8th. Oh, that is that. Yeah, Sunday.
That's Sunday. It's Sunday.
I got confused.
Right. So that'll be on Sunday. We're buying ourselves a bit more time. Show's going up on Wednesday. But of course, we will still be doing our regular streams. There will be news that morning and also tomorrow on the Back Pocket YouTube channel, which of course is youtube.com/backpocket channel. There will be a playback of Watchdog Legion. We did a stream about that last week. So you can, of course, head over there, watch that stream, watch all the silly British shenanigans we got up to. That's the best use of, I think, shenanigans, the British type. That we got up to. And Steph, you had a stream of it on Friday. How did that go?
It went very well.
Did you get talked into doing it all in a British accent like the chat said they were going to make you do?
I did more than one type of accent. I did posh British.
Ooh.
I did my attempt at a Yorkshire accent.
All right.
And I did Irish.
Irish, very good. And what was the overall response?
I'd say pretty good, but then also I had some problems with scissor lifts as well.
I saw a photo you tweeted about that, actually. Yeah, it looks like things went... Can you drive the scissor lifts as well?
You sure can. You can drive them when they're at their maximum height. I just wouldn't advise that. From a physics perspective, it's quite unstable.
Lovely. Well, you definitely
You can also drive over people in the scissor lift. There was an instance where I had made the scissor lift really tall, and the guy's like, "Where have they gone? I can't find them." And I was just like, and he's like,
oh dear, it is. I was going to say you've definitely got up to the most shenanigans if you did that, because all we did was just like run over people, which it's really hard not to do in that game because there's just a lot of people. But of course,
I was a vigilante for justice, but I would say also responsible for the majority of the deaths that occurred in that game.
You are still playing like DedSec are still a known terrorist group, so they occasionally have a few, black marks against their name. So cool. Well, I guess you, of course, can go and check out Steph's VOD of that if you didn't watch it on the Friday as well. Watch our stream of Watch Dogs Legions. And as I said, playback tomorrow, then news again on Wednesday, assuming Nick will be jumping on that one because he's been out of the picture for a while now. And then we'll be doing our stream that night. So plenty to look forward to. Of course, if you're not already subscribed following this Twitch channel, you can do so. You can go and subscribe to the YouTube. And of course, Stephanie, if they want to be the most loved, if they want to be the top shelf wood in our timber cupboard of offcuts, if they want to be like a maple bit of wood.
They don't now, Gus. They don't.
No,
You're
they
making
do.
them want it less.
They want to be like
less.
a fine birch. How would they get to that top shelf?
If you go to patreon.com/backpocket and become a patron of the show, that is the best way you can support us and get us to a point where we can make even more stuff, hire more people, and take over the world.
Because we can use you as wood to build the show that is Back Pocket. Analogy complete. No.
Scott is leaving. She hates it. She hates it. No, nothing. We're going to be doing a lot this week, so it's a great time. And I hope you enjoy the news. Yes.
That's unfair. That's a bias that is just like, I can't have any say on. You get close-ups of your dog. You get to mute me when you want. This level of control is just...
He's complaining. He's complaining a lot.
Of course I'm complaining. I thought I was on mute by now.
He's having a tantrum. We're going to back out now, I think. We're just going to back out.
We're going to raid. We haven't raided.
We're going to raid and then we're going to back out. Suggestions from chat and who to raid?
I found someone I thought we could raid earlier if they're still streaming.
Oh, yeah?
They are still online. I came across a streamer from Western Australia. Am I muted still? I came across a streamer from Western Australia who does fishing streams. I don't know her name directly, but she fishes off the end of a pier. What was it again? Sploosy is a streamer from Perth, I believe, and fishes off the edge of a pier, reads the chat off her phone, and feeds the fish she catches, or some of them, to her, I think, Phil, who is her pelican friend. It's adorable. So I thought we could rate her.
Cute. That is pretty cute.
Let's
rate Sploosy.
A few people in the chat know Sploosy, so what's our raid message when we get over there?
Splish splash, I was taking a bath.
Done. Cool.
That was great. Well done, Gus.
I don't know if I'm muted anymore. I'm not trusted to talk. All right, we're going to raid Sploosy. We'll see you guys Wednesday. Stephanie, what do we do now?
Oh no, guys, don't the message for Sploosy should be fish eat fish.
Oh yes, a classic throwback. Fish eat fish.
Fish eat fish, please, for Sploosy.
Love it. All right, head over there now. Say fish eat fish to Sploosy, and we'll say goodbye because we're going to back it out. Bye, Steph.